What's up, YouTube? It's Sunday morning. I should have did a video on this yesterday, but I didn't. Actually took in a job on Saturday for stalling on a 97 Mercury Marquis 4.6 liter. And the body style is still the same for the Lincoln Town Car or Continental. And I'm sure this goes up a few years. So in the long run, the intermittent stalling, I didn't interview the customer, the counter person did. And typically for an intermittent stall, you would think idle air control motor or a fuel pump. And I'll let you guys know, there was no DTSs left behind, no codes, no nothing. The car ran great, had 100,000 miles on it. So I did put a fuel pump in it, and that didn't resolve it. So a little bit more diagnostic work, probably like 4 or 5 hours. And here's what happened. And this was plenty of road testing too, just to command it and, you know, make it happen consistently so you can keep an eye on it. So as you were driving on D-cell, you would hit the brakes, and every once in a while, the car would just stall out and start right back up. I mean, flawlessly stall right out, start right back up. Sometimes it would happen within less than a mile. Sometimes it wouldn't happen for 8 to 10 miles, but it definitely would happen all the time. So then I started thinking, oh, maybe the torque converter solenoids, you know, staying locked up when you hit the brakes coming to a stop, you know, slugging the motor down to a stall. Couldn't prove it, couldn't pinpoint it there, you know, so I kept going further and further and further. So it turned out, and then, you know, I've seen some views on YouTube myself, was that the brake light switch wire harness was melting and, you know, causing problems where they couldn't put their car in gear, wouldn't have no brake lights, etc., etc., etc. What I did notice is when I hit the brakes, the voltage would drop tremendously. And I did verify that the alternator was charging several times. And sometimes on these older cars, you know, the wiring does decay, or, you know, gets a lot of resistance in it over the years, and things start acting goofy. And so I checked it, you know, pulled down the panel underneath, inspected the brake light harness and the switch, and someone did replace it with the upgraded connector pigtail with heavier gauge wire, new brake light switch. So I said, you know, years back I had a Lincoln in here that kept melting the brake light wires, and I did upgrade the harness, and it still was doing that, and actually turned out to be high resistance in the grounds from the battery to the fender well. So I want you to start there. If you're experiencing the same problem, do a resistance test between the grounds from motor to battery and battery to chassis. Definitely pull them apart, scrape them up to bare metal, put it back together. Of course, we'll make sure the battery is the right size. So another thing that I did to eliminate the brake light switch from still getting hot, because even with the upgraded harness, the brake light switch was still getting very hot. So I went and put LED bulbs in the whole back of the rear car, and I reduced the voltage draw almost to nothing, or the voltage drop when you apply the brake. And that actually dropped the temperature, of course, in the brake light wire harness and the brake light switch. So if you're chasing down a problem like this in the 97 and up Lincoln Town Car, Mercury Marquis, definitely pay attention to the voltage gauge and when you hit the brakes, and see how much that gauge is dipping. And my first recommendation would be, if the harness is trashed, replace the brake light switch and harness. Go through all the grounds, make sure the battery's good, and replace all the bulbs in the back with LEDs. This way, that load on that brake light wiring system is almost nothing. Thanks for watching.